All right, we're going to turn our attention back to, again, the fairy tale story of the week. It brought down all the media. Social media was going off its nuts. Everyone was talking about it. Who is Arncliffe Aurora? And we've got that man, the man who caused the stir, the man, the brains behind the organisation, the man that won back-to-back championships, if you don't know, with Arncliffe Aurora. Hassan Reda, good evening. How are you?
Good, mate. How are you, Philip?
Very well, excited. Firstly, before we get into that night and what it means to the club and moving forward, another huge game drawn with Sydney Olympic, can you please tell us a little bit of history for our people out there, a little bit about Arncliffe Aurora? Because I know you have come in and, taken the league by storming the St. George Association. You get big crowds when you play. Also, you've formed a partnership or ownership now with St. George City in the Premier League. What's happening? There's big movements with Arncliffe Aurora.
Yeah, look, Arcliff is a historic club, and it actually stems back, I think, to the early '60s, back to back to southern Lebanon, and that's where the club actually started. It's an amazing story, and even how the name Aurora came up. It was a village that wanted to start a football club. They stayed all night discussing what are they going to call this club, and then they stayed all the way to sunrise. So they called it Fajr, which means Arabic, which means Aurora.
Wow.
And yeah, and that's where it took off. And then, the early '80s, all our parents migrated to Sydney, and they just continued and opened a club, I think, in the early '90s. And it's just taken off since. I mean, the whole community gets behind the club. It's really the only thing that, gets us all, together every weekend, down to Arcliff Park, and the barbecues and the shishes together. And old and young get together to support the team.
Well, like Stealth Rallis, the football agent Tony mentioned before, your community has brought wonderful players. I mean, back in my time, Abassad, he was probably one of the best Lebanese Australian international, played overseas, still coaching now with Roldemare. Huge success. Michael Reda, Tarak Ulrich, Ahmed Ulrich, who got sold overseas. So, although the community is more basically rugby league and so on, in football terms, there's great talent coming through that you see, and there is a lot of passion for the game, football, soccer as we call it as well. And I think just Arncliffe brings that all together.
Um, I agree. Abbas has been massive for our community. He's someone that we've all looked up to. We've all wanted to emulate. We've all wanted to, watch him grow. And we used to follow him to Bilmore. And then Michael Reda came along also. Michael happens to be my uncle.
Yeah, correct.
So the whole family is based around football. But then there's even, Hussein Joma, who played at Sydney Olympic also, Dino. There's been many players that have come through our area. And this is where you were talking earlier about St. George. We kind of feel like sometimes we don't get the rub of the green, depending on which clubs you're going to. And now that Arncliffe has linked up with a NPL 1 club, with St. George City, it's really going to be an amazing feat for our community, and like a pathway for all the kids that love football. I mean, there's two major clubs in the St. George area, Lebanese dominated, and between them, there's about 1,500 kids that play football every week.
That's a really exciting thing with the partnership there with St. George City, like you said, because it gives the association and kids a pathway really to go through. And I'm hoping that even grows in the future, because that's something we're all looking at very interestedly, and it looks great. Going back to last week, that famous night taking on Mount Druitt Rangers, I suppose now you could say, how confident were you that you could cause this stir and cause the biggest upset ever of Australian Cup history?
Look, I really don't want to sound arrogant, or nor do I want to sound confident. I was kind of hoping that they don't bring their best players, and I think they did leave a couple of the good, the better players out at home.
Yep.
Saying that,
there still doesn't matter whoever gets on the
exactly
field.
right.
They're still an NPL Premier League standard club.
Absolutely. I mean, I also coach at Apia, and I
Under
know the
15s,
standard to
yep.
play to play NPL. I'll give you a funny story. I got to Arncliffe Park about 5:30, and my younger brother who plays in my team was smoking a cigarette, and I just eyed him out, and he looked at me and he quickly flicked the cigarette away. I'm like, bro, you got a game in an hour, mate. What are you doing? You know what I mean?
Like the
And he's like,
difference
I'm
in
sorry, I'm
mentality.
sorry. Exactly right.
The
So
difference in professionalism.
Yeah.
look, the same guy um, after the game actually had to go in concrete. He actually didn't get to celebrate. Literally had to run home, jump in his truck, and drive
Wow.
down to the city to concrete.
Wow.
And that's what it is. But that the mentality of the team and the club and the community that backs it is what really drives us over the line. I'm not going to say I told you so, but there was a little bit of confidence going into the game, thinking, look, if we can pinch a goal early, which we have the players to do that, and then we just hold on for dear life after that.
Who are some of your big guns? I know that you've got some big names of players that have played in Premier League and have been around and about in the Australian football game.
It's one of the biggest name is Billy Shaheen.
Okay.
I think Billy was at the Wanderers for a couple
Yeah.
of years, and only due to injury that he got held back. I think he even got or he got offered to go to Spain, and I think injury is the only thing that kind of held him back. I have another player by the name of Mohamed Farhat, who, although he's done as teacher, he also played at Olympics, so he's got a bit of a point to prove on Wednesday night. Abasad, obviously mentioned, but he's always been, I turn to him anytime that I want to coach, and I always ask for his advice. Who else do I have? I've got another guy by the name of Ali Farhat, who also played for St. George. I think that was NPL 2 or 1. I can't remember. I got a good Asian kid. He just, he's a delivery driver, and he
These are the
came on
stories.
through Instagram. He just wanted to come and play. And I've got a fantastic Hungarian. Look, they're all good players, but then you've got the local boys that just play for the badge.
Yeah.
They play for a barbecue at the end of it. They're happy with a free sausage at the end of the game, what I mean?
Andy, you got anything you want to ask before
Yeah, us. Mate, well, just mentioning barbecue, I reckon you guys got the best canteen in the district. That's for sure. That'll be
By far.
We're gonna come down and try it, Chubbs and
Well,
myself.
we're definitely going to be out there with the next game with Olympic. We're all looking forward to that one.
I mean, how big is this game on Wednesday week? I think it is the 23rd. I mean, you said that it's a massive community club. I noticed when doing a bit of research on the club, you guys have even got women's teams. I've got a daughter that plays in the NPL, and how important that women's factor is. So the club is really. It just seems like it's just run really, really well, and a lot of focus on community and also the women's football. But back on the Australia Cup, that 23rd, I mean, the scenes are going to be
One for
massive.
the ages.
Look, again, just from promoting it, point of view, I'm expecting about 5,000 people there.
Definitely.
We purposely done it on a Wednesday night so we can get as much people down there as possible, because we know a lot of the boys that do train Tuesdays, Thursdays in other clubs wanted to come down and watch.
Yep.
The community is buzzing, and I don't think Football St. George, to a lesser extent, or Football New South Wales know how much football means to our community. It's such a big factor in our community. Look, especially Arncliffe, like if I lose on the weekend, but I'm bombarded with phone calls and messages for the whole week, and they hit me up with different formations and strategies and who should have played where and what subs I made wrong.
Wow.
The community is. I'm not even kidding. Like I'll be hit with about 100 messages by the next game, all with their own point of view of what I should have done. If I tell you a funny story, my cousin also coaches at Rockdale, in the local competition. He'll even message me and tell me what I did wrong.
That's passion. Can't beat passion.
Hassan,
yeah, absolutely.
We can't hide the question because Arncliffe Aurora as well has had a lot of bad publicity and stuff like that. You know it yourself, and which you're trying to move away from that. But when people talk like that bad about the club, it must be disappointing because, like you said, you guys don't have. It's not about you. Aren't thugs. You don't want to be known as thugs. You're a community doing really hard work and just bringing the passion back to the home. It's not about being thugs and being stupid and doing. You just want to bring the real passion back to the game.
It's it's not a hidden fact that when you've got so many youth all together, we're talking like hundreds of boys that hang out together here. It's just testosterone. It's just trying to guide them in the right direction. Definitely, we don't want to be known as thugs. I mean, a couple of years ago, Manly came and played in the Australia Cup against us, and I was speaking to the coach. I forgot his name, and I said to him, "Look, the crowd's going to be intimidating,
yeah.
But I guarantee you, like, do not be fearful. After the game, you're just going to be loved like you're part of us." And he actually walked up to me after the game when he said that to me. A big shout out also does go out to our committee. They've come in 3-4 years ago and they've really, really cleaned out the place. We say that the president of the club at the time came in with the iron fist and he always laughs about it now that sometimes you have to come in and take a zero tolerance approach. And unfortunately, because of the publicity that we copped in the past, he had to make some very big decisions, by asking people to move on. And even not in that regard, even giving boys that needed that, tender love and care. And he gave it to them. He gave them positions in the club, a bit of responsibility. And they loved it. And there was a bit of, backlash initially, but then when he, showed the vision to the community as where he wants to take the club, and he has, and really a lot of credit goes to him and the committee and how hard they are working.
Hassan, thank you again for your time. Like, I've just got to meet you and you've been outstanding. We've spoke off air and, me and Andy, where we're all going to be, and Chubba TV, Football Fever, we're a support of Arncliffe Aurora. We love what you do. We love what you guys bring, the community, the passion. That's what football's all about. It's all about the passion and you guys bring that in spades. And, you're taking on my team, Sydney Olympic. I don't want you to beat them, but I'm still going to be there supporting. It's going to be a huge night, and we can't wait. And like you said, hopefully we get over that 5,000. Maybe we can get closer to 10,000 because that's what that game deserves. It's going to be an enormous night and a good night for football and a night of celebration.
Absolutely. Funny enough, I've got Sydney Olympic on the weekend with Apia with my 15s. So I'm kind of hoping for a double against them, on Saturday and then again on Wednesday night. Look, for us to beat Sydney Olympic, it's going to be a mighty effort. We're just happy being there, if you know what I mean.
100%. Well, if you beat Sydney Olympic, I think we're the mainstream again. That'd be enormous. It'd be a huge game, but why not? That's what it's all about. You can only dream, and it's 90 minutes. Anything's possible.
Absolutely. Really looking forward to the game, and make sure you come past and you say hello, you know what I mean? Look, I might be a bit fiery in the dugout, but just see me after the game.
We'll do.
We'll do, Hassan. Thank you again for your time.
Thanks, mate. Thanks,
say hi to Uncle
luck.
Michael. I played with him. We worked together at Parramatta Melita back in the day. Say hi to him for me. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Good luck, mate.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Andy, like we said, Arncliffe Aurora, that club has had its hits, maybe like the Wanderers with their support base. But at the end of the day, it's, we don't want thugs. We don't want that. But the passions and those things that they can bring in, it's incredible. And that's what our game's all about.
Well, Huss hit the nail on the head, Chubbs. You always get a group of younger boys with testosterone overflowing, if you like, high levels of testosterone. They get amongst friends and end up carrying on. It happens a lot. Unfortunately, they've had their history with it. But it's great to see the committee, I should say, in the last couple of years have cleaned it all out, and that's what it's about. For them to learn from it, learn from the process. At the end of the day, you can't really do that, and some of the scenes.
And for football lovers, get out there on that Wednesday night. It's going to be a big night. Get out there. And, you're going to enjoy, get something nice to eat and watch a great game and a great night of football festivities.